Hi, welcome to This Expat Life. My name is Amanda Maxime, and as a certified coach, I help high-achieving expats find more fulfillment and happiness in their global lives. Because while life abroad is often amazing, it is not only rainbows and butterflies, as all experienced expats know. In This Expat Life, I open up space for all facets of life abroad and what you can do to thrive in it. And to support you in your personal, professional, and geographic life transitions, I share tips, tell relatable stories, and connect with fellow expats. Whether you've just moved abroad or you are a seasoned expat, This Expat Life is your place to find real understanding and to grow from the inside out. Enjoy the show. Hey, welcome back to This Expat Life. It's been a while. I took a break for 2 months. I decided it very spontaneously. I just felt ready for a podcast break, so I could come back with renewed energy and inspiration to create new episodes. And so now, after 2 months, I'm back. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different than the usual episodes. So instead of diving into a specific topic and me sharing a bunch of stuff about it, or interviewing someone, I am going to make it more like a little workshop where I will share exercises for you to journal on. But before I start, I just wanted to give you a brief update about my life, what's been going on, because the last 2 months, I kind of needed a podcast break because I was traveling so much. So I did this grand autumn tour, as I called it, and this started actually when I returned home from Rio and felt that my social life needed a bit of a boost. So after summer, I decided to prioritize that. And then in early October, I also felt a bit of Q4 fatigue, which usually hits me much earlier than most people. Most people have it at the end of the year, just before Christmas. I somehow always have it in early October. And so to boost my energy a little bit more and to prioritize my social life, I decided I was going to say yes to every social invitation. And if you have a lot of friends abroad, that often also means that you have to travel abroad if you say yes. So since late October, I have been to Belgium. I went there for a weekend to visit some friends. I went to Germany, took some day trips to Switzerland and Liechtenstein from there as well. And in between, I had international friends coming over to stay with me here, both almost a week, each of them. And it was literally that I would come back home from a trip in the evening, and the following morning, one of my friends would arrive for a full week. And when they would leave in the morning, I would depart in the afternoon again for another flight. It was insane. I went to Madrid, Spain to visit some friends. And then I went to Arizona. I went to Phoenix for a business conference. And prior to that, I had some fun and downtime with friends in Sedona. Gosh, it was so beautiful. It was my second time there. I absolutely loved it again. I want to go back there. I will go back there. It's just a different energy that I feel there. And I really love being in the US, but more about that later on, perhaps in another episode. And I have just come back from Belgium again, where I spent another weekend with the same friends as where I started. And I'm actually thinking that maybe I'm forgetting something. I'm not sure. But it felt like 6-7 weeks of like nonstop travel, nonstop being with people, which was really good for me because I really needed that. But I am not an extrovert, so this social time also takes some of my energy sometimes. So right now I'm more balancing it with some introvert time. So that was basically my autumn, my end of the year. My coaching practice and business is doing really well. Just last week, I had the final session of the year. And as I shut down my laptop, I thought, hey, how many expats did I actually help this year? And I calculated and I came to a total of 56 expats that I've coached through one-on-one sessions, a group session, a group program, or an event. And I'm actually pretty sure that number is a little bit higher, but this is what I could think of. And yeah, it made me feel really proud because I've worked so hard to get here. And it's been my dream to help other conscious expats who just want to feel better in their global life, who are at the point where I used to be a couple of years ago. And it's so fulfilling to help them. And like I said, it's making me really proud because I worked so damn hard for it and I still do. And just to see that I've helped so many people, and these are just my paid clients, I'm sure I've inspired more through the podcast, etc. Yeah, it's just really nice to see that. So I hope this inspires you also to look at your wins of this year and not just of maybe the gap that is still in front of you, but to really look back and see, hey, what progress did I make? What am I proud of? And maybe that is a nice bridge to dive into today's topic, because like I said, I want to do a bit of like a journal workshop here, because the end of the year, like the last 10 days or so of the year, are always really, really special to me. You've heard me say this before. I often take 2 or 3 days to really reflect on the past year and to dream about the new year and to also plan for it. Because a goal without action is just a dream. And I'm serious about getting where I want to be. I've been doing this for years. I've got a whole process, a whole ritual, and it has really helped me to just upgrade my life every single time. And I don't mean this in a way that it always needs to be better, bigger, or more, because a lot of people feel some resistance about this, and I get that. But it's more about like, who am I and can I live the most authentic life that is available to me? And I've got my dreams, and you don't get there at once usually, so you need some time to get there. So every year I'm making progress, and sometimes I change and my dreams change as well. And so then you've got to change something about your life too, because it was once my dream, well, sorta, to move back to the Netherlands and buy a house and grow some roots. But I really found out in the years that I lived here, this is not my dream anymore. We all know this. So to take some time to think about your life, to be intentional about where you want to go and the things you're going to place your focus and attention on is so good to do at the end of the year, because this will help you to start a new year well. And I'm not going to explain my whole ritual and process here. This is actually something I've done for my one-on-one coachees in a bonus masterclass that they got last week, which I'm also making available to the people who are joining the co-pilot before the end of the year. But today I just wanted to look at journal exercises. I mention journaling regularly in my episodes or on Instagram, because I have a journal. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can see my beautiful journal here. It's very colorful and it has like a jaguar and flowers and jungle elements. I bought this one because I knew I was moving to Brazil. And I use it a lot. And sometimes I don't write in it for 2 or 3 weeks, and sometimes I write in it every single day. And I just write down all the things that are on my mind, that I'm worried about, but also the dreams that I'm having, the future I'm visualizing, the things I want to change about my habits or my daily life or who I am. And I write it all down because it helps me to take it out of my head. So I know it's in there. Whenever I want to, I can just go back to it and I don't need to keep thinking about it. It is such a great tool to increase your self-awareness, and this is why I love it. And this is also why I wanted to share some journal exercises with you today. I journal a lot in this December ritual that I have, although I actually do it digitally because I have like a bigger document where I write down a lot more. But then usually at the start of every year, I write down the 3 main goals that I have for myself right at the start of a notebook. I have a new notebook every single year. So that helps me to stay on track or to just go back to it whenever I lost my focus a little bit throughout the year. But that's for tomorrow's episode. For today, I wanted to help you journal a bit about the last year. So I don't know how it is for you guys, but I'm extremely future oriented. If I don't ask myself certain questions, or if other people don't ask me anything about the past, I usually don't think a lot about the past. I always think about the future. I know not everyone is like this. A lot of people are more in the past. Some of them are more in the present, but this is like, I think these are the unicorns. Usually the majority is in the past or in the future. And I know a lot of people who are like me in the future, but I also know a lot of people who like to dwell on the past. So because I'm so future oriented, it doesn't come natural to me to reflect on where I've been. So what I do is that with every certain specific time period, like the end of the year or the end of a quarter, or with the end of significant period in my life, like my birthday, or if I move to another place again, if I leave a place behind, I then journal about the past period. These are like sort of natural moments for me to look back and reflect and see how happy I was, how authentic I was in my life, and what I would like to change going forward. If you are always future oriented and you're always dreaming about the future and focusing on your next plan and your next goals, it becomes a lot harder, obviously, to learn from the past. And the past has great lessons for you if you know how to reflect. So today I wanted to share 12 questions with you that will help you reflect on 2024 to see, hey, what do I want to bring with me? What do I want to change? What do I want to remember? Etc. And after your reflection of 2024, you will then have a sort of clearer mind to look ahead and to think about 2025 and to be really intentional about it. So I wanted to go over these 12 questions with you. Now, I'm not going to pause every single time for you to write because someone might need 2 minutes and another person needs half an hour for a certain question. So what I would like you to do is to pause the episode after every question so you can really take the time to write down what you feel needs to be written down. And if you're listening to this episode in the car or under the shower, this is when I listen to most podcasts, this is not the best environment for you to be reflecting about. So if you're listening to this episode, just come back to it at a later moment in your day where you have maybe half an hour or more to sit down with these questions. And these questions are designed to reflect on the year. But if you're listening to this episode at a later point in the year, you can also use them to reflect on your life year. So if it's your birthday, or at the end of a period in a certain country or place where you have been living, like I've been doing myself all the time as well. So whenever I say last year or 2024, you can just replace it with the period that you want to reflect on. And lastly, before I dive into it, I have also made these questions available in written form. Everyone learns in a different way or enjoys things in a different way. Some prefer audio, some prefer visual, some prefer written stuff. So if you're someone who likes to go over something in text, I've also got it for you. So you can head over to the link in the show notes, and there you'll find a form. If you fill it out, you will get sent the questions to your inbox. Okay, so let's get started. And I want to start with actually one of my favorite questions. I actually ask this question also whenever I need a review or I ask for feedback about an event, for example. And that question is, what are 3 words that come to mind when you think of 2024? What are 3 words that come to mind when you think of 2024? And just allow whatever comes up to be that word. There's no need to go over it and overthink it. Your intuition already knows. So in my case, I guess my words for 2024 are travel, freedom, and growth. And that is because I traveled a lot, not only this grand autumn tour, but I've also spent 6 months in Brazil, and I was traveling there too. And I really felt a lot of freedom this year. Freedom in my location, but also freedom in my business. I got to play a lot and it was just a lot of fun. And growth because I really went next level in who I'm being in my business as a coach and also as a person and in my relationships. So I really feel there was a lot of growth in this time a nicer way because I've had growth in other years, but it has been very, very challenging, like the death of my parents, the lockdowns, obviously. And this time it just felt like growth came to me in a more gentle way. So what are 3 words for you that come to mind when you think of this year? Now, my words are pretty positive for this year, but I think I remember for 2020, I wrote something down like pain as one of the words. This was just after my father had died and my heart got broken. It doesn't need to be anything positive or anything negative per se, but just allow whatever your intuition says to be the right words for you. So if you don't have your words yet, pause here as I'm moving on to the second question. And the second question is, there's actually 2 questions. Who was I at the beginning of this year and who am I now? So go back to January 1st, 2024, or maybe you remember another day at the beginning of the year. Who were you at that time? Where were you? What were your thoughts, your actions? What was your mood like overall? What did you believe about yourself? Write that down, all of it. And then you can go on to the second part, and that is, who am I now? So what defines you now? Where are you? What are you doing? What are the beliefs you have about yourself? What are the thoughts you are thinking? What are the actions that you're doing? What are you embodying right now? And maybe you can actually write the first question, who were you at the beginning of this year? And the second question, who are you now, on the left and the right, so you can really compare the two. Now, maybe you are seeing a significant change in that year. A lot of times, especially if you are as future-oriented as me, we just focus on the gap in front of us. And we forget to look back and see the progress that we've made since starting. We don't always see our growth because it comes so natural to us. We are with ourselves every single day. If you have small changes every single time, it's harder to see the overall transformation. So maybe this exercise helps you see that actually, wow, there has been a big change. Maybe you were a bit fearful or stressed at the beginning of the year, and now you're just much more confident and relaxed. Or maybe you identified with being a diplomat, for example, or any other job that you held, and you're now seeing that, hey, I'm an entrepreneur or a freelancer, or just doing something that really fulfills me much more than the previous job. Maybe you were being someone in a certain country and you've changed now that you're in another country. So just see, what is the change here? And if you see that not much has changed, who you were at the beginning of the year and who you are now is pretty stagnant, then I've got another question for you. Are you happy with who you are being right now? Or do you think there's room for more? Because we don't always need to strive for change. Like I said in the beginning, it's not always more, better, bigger. If there has been very small change and you are incredibly happy and fulfilled in your life as it is, good for you, keep going. But if you're not fully happy and fulfilled, what prevented you from making a change this year? We'll get to that in a moment, actually. So just take an honest look at the left and the right column, see if there's any change, and if you're happy with it or not. Then I'm moving on to question number 3. So pause here if you haven't finished question number 2 yet. And question number 3 is, what are you most proud of achieving last year? As I said, we don't often acknowledge our wins enough. So this is why I'm asking you this question. What do you feel most proud of if you look at your achievements of last year? And it doesn't need to be anything big. I've seen this actually in my group programs. Often the wins that we are most proud of are usually the quote-unquote smaller ones. They are wins in how we show up in our daily life, or who we are in relationships, or how we communicate with another. And these seem like small shifts, but they often are the biggest wins because our way of being is so ingrained in us, and to be able to change that after perhaps decades of doing something a certain way is such a huge win. And I think what I'm most proud of this year when I look at achieving at this part is my live event that I organized, which I felt quite some stress and fear about prior to it. And also that my business had the most successful year so far. And I did that without being overly attached to the results. So often we identify with the outcome. Oh, if this offer or launch didn't go well, or I got negative feedback from someone, it says something about me. It says something about who I'm being. And I've really learned this year that this is not the case. It says something maybe about my doing, about what I could change going forward or improve, but it doesn't say anything about my worth as a human being. So I'm really proud of achieving my best business year so far without that over attachment to the outcomes. What are you most proud of? I'm really curious. Then question number 4, and pause again if you need to. When did you feel most like the authentic you? You know, the you that just feels light and aligned, maybe doing something that just felt so natural. Things were flowing for you as you were doing this or as you were in a situation. When was this moment that you felt like the authentic you? The reason I put in this question is because we often mold ourselves into the structure that we have going on for our lives, whether it's like a time structure, a 9-to-5 job, or expectations from that job, or from society, or from your family. The high achievers among us, we kind of mold ourselves to be high achieving. And we sometimes neglect a little bit that authentic core within us. And so I want you to recognize the moment or moments that you felt most like your authentic you, that you were just flowing through life and you felt confident and light, because that says something about you, what you need in your life to feel that way, and what is really for you. So I hope you can recognize that moment so that you can include more of it in 2025. And then question number 5 is kind of the opposite. What felt heavy or unaligned for you this year? Maybe a situation, maybe an activity, a certain environment or context, perhaps a relationship. But what just didn't feel aligned and what brought this heaviness with it? A job, taking care of a family member. It's important to recognize that too, so that you can change or eliminate that from your life going forward. And I don't mean eliminate that relationship or stop taking care of a family member, but if it feels heavy and unaligned, you can change something about it. Maybe your attitude, maybe a small tweak somewhere that already generates a different outcome. And if it is a job that felt heavy or a country that just didn't feel aligned, see where you can have some agency over your life and make courageous changes that are required for you to feel aligned again. All right, pause again here if you need to. I'm going through it pretty fast, so my guess is that you will need to pause this. Question number 6, how did the country you live in or the environment that you are in make you feel? So how did the country you lived in this year make you feel? I always think about this question because I know how much my environment has an impact on me. I mean, everyone is influenced by their environment in a very small way and sometimes a bit bigger. But I know I'm really heavily impacted by my environment. So I'm pretty happy being in The Hague, especially after coming back from Rio. I've shared that on the podcast before. But if I'm not careful, The Hague bores me to sleep. I really need more busyness and just a hustle and bustle going on around me without living in a really big city, because that wouldn't work for me either. And I've realized every time that I go to the US, I feel like I can breathe. I feel space. I dream bigger. I have more trust and faith and confidence in myself. My path where I'm going to is much clearer. All the things I'm not feeling here in The Hague, where I have less physical space. And also our culture is not as supportive, in my opinion, of people who want to take a leap and not, settle with a conventional life. I feel like the US supports me much more in my ambition. So this is something I'm always aware of. The city that I live in, the country that I live in, and also the house that I live in. So for you, how did the country that you've been living in this year, or maybe a specific environment, make you feel? And maybe you want to come up with 3 words again, or maybe the answer is there right away. And obviously, if it's not very positive, what can you change going forward? But I'll come back to that in the next episode. Okay, question number 7. What was an area in which you experienced the most growth this year? And how did you grow? And maybe it is not about the most growth, but perhaps the growth you're happiest with. As I was sharing before, often the smallest wins are actually our biggest ones. So in what area of your life did you see such growth? Was it in career, love and relationships, family, joy, adventure, environment, finances? I'm just quoting some areas of the Wheel of Expat Life, my freebie. It's a free tool for you to assess how your life is going. I'll put it in the show notes too. But just take a look at that area and see how you have been growing there. Okay, question number 9. What was an area in which you felt the most challenged last year? And why? Why did you feel challenged here? My guess is that there is one area that right away comes to mind, or perhaps more, but I would like you to pick one, maybe two. I also want you to think back a little bit more and see, hey, is this an area I've been challenged in more often in previous years? Is there a pattern here? And why do you feel challenged there? And what has caused the challenges? Often the causes are besides us. We don't have any influence or control over it. Like in previous years for me, when my parents died, obviously I didn't have any control over that, but it really, really challenged me in how I was feeling, in my relationships, and in other areas of my life as well. Okay, pause it again if you need to. I'm moving on to question number 9. What worked well for you this year and what didn't work? So I want you to write what worked well on the left, just bullet points, do it very briefly, and use all areas of your life, your career, your dreams, travel, your daily habits, whatever. Be creative. And on the right, I want you to write down what didn't work. And I first want you to write down the 2 lists with at least 10 things for each of them. And then I want you to look at those 20 or more things and ask yourself, what lessons can I draw from both these columns? Because success leaves clues. So everything that worked well for you, there is a lesson. You want to repeat it. And I also like to believe it's either a win or a lesson learned. So anything on the right that didn't work well for you, there is a lesson for you too. Something that you need to change or eliminate going forward. Okay, spend some time on this question. Pause it here. I'm moving on to question number 10. In hindsight, what was holding you back this year more than you wanted to? So, has fear been holding you back? Has your partner been holding you back unintentionally? Or expectations about what you should be doing? Or a lack of resources? Or physical distance? We're often not fulfilling our full potential or living our dreams and going full out on them. Something is holding us back. And I want you to write the biggest thing that has been holding you back this year. But I do want you to be careful, because what a lot of people do is that they right away point to something that is external. Like I said, the physical distance or another person or lack of resources. And that is great. You can identify it. But if you identify that as your biggest holding backer, I also want you to identify something that is internal, like fear or guilt or just not being in the right mood or energy. Or even if you point to a specific person, then it's also about how you're showing up in that relationship, because maybe you're not saying anything about it. So what has been holding you back? Something external, but especially something internal. Question number 11. What is one habit or activity that made you feel good this year? Now, I like to go deep and really go to the authentic you and look at what you want in life and who you need to be and what fear you need to overcome. But I also like really small, practical, concrete things that you can apply to your life that are just like a mood booster or a game changer if you do it long enough. So what is one habit or activity that just made you feel really good this year? And maybe it's not something you've been doing every day or week. Maybe it's just something you only did once or a couple of times. But just go back and see what that thing was. For me, for example, it has been my daily future self visualization that I've been doing at the time of recording now for 98 days. This is the first time I've ever stuck to a habit that long. But it has made me feel really good about myself, about my day, about where I'm going. So this has been a great habit I added in 2024, which I'm definitely going to repeat in 2025. Another habit that made me feel good was my weekly CEO check-in. I've mentioned it before. And another activity that made me feel good was exercising regularly, which I kind of stopped doing. It's been on and off lately. But also traveling so much this autumn, because I was so much with friends and I had so much social time, and this is not my natural way usually. I like a good balance, and I definitely went to the extrovert side this time. But it did also make me feel good as long as I had some solo downtime after that. So I'm also bringing that with me in 2025. And then I'm moving on to the final question. Pause it again if you need to. And question number 12 is, what are you still holding on to that reflects your past but not your future? So what is something that you're leaving behind in 2024? If we want the next year to be different and we want to add things to our lives or we want to change something, we also need to create space for it. And maybe you've been holding on to something or someone that has been in your life for longer, but that is really reflecting your past and not where you want to go to. So what is something that you're lovingly leaving behind in 2024? Actually, I personally still need to think about this question. I'm not sure what I'm leaving behind in 2024. I can come up with a few things, but I think it's definitely this physical laziness I've been feeling, which started after my health mystery in May, but it's just not making me feel great physically. And I know for the big plans that I have for the coming year, I need to be in optimal condition. So I'm leaving my laziness, my physical laziness, because I do work a lot, behind in 2024. I think that might be the thing, but I still need to think about this one a little bit. And maybe you do too. Maybe something or someone straight away came to your mind, but maybe you need to just sit with it for a little bit longer. And if you have picked something or someone that you have been holding on to, but which is not reflecting your future and something you want to leave behind in 2024, create a little ritual of letting go of this thing, this energy, this person, this relationship, whatever. I've done that in the past several times and it has always worked really well for me. So you can imagine an energetic cord that ties you to that thing that you then cut. Maybe you want to write some things down on paper and you then burn that paper. It's a really good way as well. So see if you can do that leaving behind in a physical form as well, because this really helps you to let go of it. All right. These were my 12 questions for you to reflect on 2024, and I hope you enjoyed them. The next episode also has 12 questions, but is about 2025 or whatever period you want to start with. It's about dreaming bigger, about who you need to be, about what you can do for yourself to set yourself up in the best way. And if you like this episode with these questions and you found some surprising answers, I would love to hear. My digital door is always open for these kind of messages. So feel free to send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram or send me an email with something that you found in these reflections and something that you would like to share. Actually, sharing what you are thinking about or dreaming about helps to make it more real. So what I did in a session of the co-pilot, when we started talking about the future, where we want to go to, I asked them to write down something and then I asked them to share that out loud with each other. And no one really felt like doing it at first. They were all a bit like, I'm a little bit embarrassed or ashamed for what I wrote down. And afterwards, they were all like, wow, it actually gained so much power just by expressing it out loud. So if you want an insight to hit deeper or to make it real and to have it real power going forward, tell someone about it or write me a message. And then I'll also see you for the next episode with the next 12 questions. See you then. Have a good day wherever you are.